Hey everybody, welcome to Nomads Nation Podcast, episode 14. And today I'm chatting with Andy. He's the founder of Bellroy. We're going to do some nerding out today. We're going to talk about some new Bellroy products. We're going to talk about the carry community in general. And then we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into all things warranties. So I'm really excited. Andy, thanks for coming on. How you doing today?
Oh, good. Thanks, Aaron. Really good. And thanks for having us on. We've really just enjoyed everything you're generating and the community you're building around it and the conversation and the learning. And it's just, it's serving the carry universe in a really good way. So thank you for that and stoked we can keep chatting.
Thanks, Andy. I appreciate that. I wasn't much of a backpack nerd until 6 or 7 years ago. Fun fact, I started as a travel blogger. I wanted to be like the next National Geographic, head editor, and writing about traveling foreign lands, and that never worked out for me, but that sort of led me into gear, and I started, I was like, oh, my piece of crap backpack's not working. I'm going to try this Osprey backpack I heard about. And then, the dominoes start falling after that, and, here we are now, and it's just been so cool to see this community blossom, and also just knowing that we're just scraping the surface. I just feel like it's exploding across the board. It's an awareness issue, right? In terms of, obviously there's niche markets with watches and with shoes and lots of different subcultures on the internet. But as people realize more and more, holy crap, my bag is something that I carry with me every day. Like, that's where I should be investing my money into. That's something that I want to look good and feel good and have the features and the functions. So I just think that we only have up to go from here as a community, and I'm super stoked to see what Bellroy is doing.
Stoked. I'm with you. I think carrying better is sort of a goal that serves other goals. It serves the amazing growth and experience and adventure that you're after. It serves a sort of willingness to try new difficult things, the way you move through the world, the amount of friction you're facing changes how willing you are to try new things, to seek personal growth, to go on adventure, to do these different things. And I think when you get carry wrong, it's just harder. It's harder to move. You're less certain, you're less confident. And we really just love seeing how this notion of what we carry and how it affects our experience, our growth, our journey, has so many different cultures, subcultures, little niches. We're loving watching it go.
I totally agree. And it's funny you talk about journeys, because I think, Bellroy's been on quite a journey the past few years. And especially, I'm curious, I kind of want to nerd out. I want to know, how has it been going with the new product launches? So, you guys have been doing some new series that we've covered on Nomads Nation. The Cinch series has been really cool. The Lite travel backpack, I think it's sold out. I'm not sure. So it seems to be a really good response across the board. You got the Transit Pro series. How have the new collections been received by the Bellroy community and just in general?
Yeah, it's an exciting stage, I guess, as you get to a certain size in a business. You'll often start with a very intense focus on one area. And sometimes that's by constraining your audience and who you're going after. Sometimes it's by constraining your product categories. Sometimes it's constraining your channels or geographies. And I think for us, we've always wanted to help people carry better through full spheres. And we haven't been an outdoor brand or a tactical brand or a cycling brand. And so we've always tried to serve more people's needs as they transition between different worlds, as they did more in each day and had to flip from work to play, from near to far. And so it's been a really fun thing to start finding these families within Bellroy that can tell a type of story for a type of scenario and a type of customer, and then try and bring those to life in families, not just individual products. We've always really thought about carry quivers and how the different pieces you have fit together to solve many needs, not just one need. And so, for instance, Light Range has just been an incredible reception for us, and getting to now extend that into travel has been awesome. I've now personally done 2 trips with the Light Travel Pack, and it was just incredible. It's like I had to, airline restrictions, my bag couldn't weigh more than 7 kilograms. That's cool, the bag's only 1 kilo and it can move and morph and do all sorts. And then to get a bit extra on, I had a sling with me and I put my heavier stuff in that so that, if they weigh the bag, I'm still okay.
Yeah, keep the sling right in the front.
Totally.
You gotta hack the system, okay? It's tough out there.
Exactly. And it's like, but then that sling, like, I put my spare batteries and a few other really heavy things, but then also it's got my noise cancelling headphones, it's got my snacks, it's got all the things I need on the plane seat with me. So that's on my seat. The light travel pack's in the overhead. I don't even have to go to that unless I'm going for my laptop. And so it worked so well. And I am absolutely a geek at heart. And to just be using a product like that was just, it nailed the brief. Like, we had a really clear goal of, we want it to be about 1 kilo, we want it to be really flexible. When I got on one trip, each day I'd have to sort of go out for the day and haul some equipment with me, and it just transitioned and could do that really well. And I was just like, oh my God, this is literally the best bag I can imagine for this type of travel. And of course, there's bags that are good for other types, but to just experience your own product and just go, my gosh, the team just have nailed this one. I loved using it so much. So we're seeing things like Lite resonate. Yeah,
no, I mean, for sure. I mean, actually, I'm in Vietnam right now, and I came here from Hong Kong, and I have the Bellroy Lite 38 travel pack with me. So I gave it. It's literally right over there, and it's great. I mean, and it's great because it shows a receptiveness to you guys to listen to the community and get feedback and see what's happening. Because one thing that we try to do at Nomads Nation is really be tapped in with what the community's talking about and the features that they want and the struggles that they're having, whether it's in their everyday carry or their travel. And it's like there was like this there's quite a journey that the bag world has gone on as to where just like the Ospreys and the Jan Sports and the North Faces, and then we had this revolution with the Peak designs and the Nomadics and all these more futuristic bags that were feature heavy but also heavy, right? But that was the thing, So 10 years ago, everyone's like, I don't care how heavy it is, I want 37 features just when I swing the bag over this way. But now the pendulum's sort of coming back around, where it seems like there's a lot more interest in lighter bags, minimalist bags, and specifically with travel, because that's correlating with what we're seeing in the travel industry, where restrictions are getting tougher, and it's not just in Europe anymore. I mean, living in Asia, it's even tougher sometimes in Asia than it is in Europe. It's crazy. And like, not even just the budget airlines in Asia. I took a flight with Cathay Pacific, a premium Asian airline. They're weighing my personal, they're weighing my carry-on. So and I know people in the U.S., this hasn't quite spread there yet, so hopefully you guys don't have to deal with it. But aside from the U.S., everywhere else we're really dealing with this. So it just shows a reception and a sense of listening from Bellroy in terms of what people are looking for, and that lightness just felt so amazing. And I was able to get my bag under the weight limit for my flight to Vietnam, and it's just been really great. And the reception in the comments, I read every comment. It seems like you guys did pretty freaking well with this Lite series, so. I'm sure you guys are pretty stoked.
Yeah, we really are. And it was interesting because that's this hybrid of how do you create all these performance traits but still keep weight really, really low and keep bulk low as well. But then cinch was just a really different feel for us. And it was us stretching a little out of our comfort zone, but it was like there's times when you want gear and there's times when you just want something lighter and more joyful and more of an expression of personality. And it still has the functionality to it, but it's much more serving sort of emotive goals of like, I want something that feels of me and of where my headspace is right now. And so cinch has also been received really well in a different need set. It's also light, it also has some features, but it's much more about the joy of how you interact with it and the elastics and the cinches and the way it morphs and moves and adapts to what you want. And it can travel, but it is much more focused around near trips rather than far trips in terms of just that daily easy thing. And so I think it's fun when we stretch a little and it's received really well. And it's like, I think brands sometimes struggle when they try and jump too far too quickly, where if they can sort of win trust and validation in an area and then move a little laterally and a little laterally, and each move, once you consolidate it, it sort of gives you permission to play in a slightly new space again. And so I think it's just been really fun to watch that. We have a very different product development process. The consumer feedback you talk about, there's a Denise Leon quote that I really love, which is, great brands are insight-led and consumer-informed. And so many brands will just try and drive insights, but not really listen to the customers. And other brands are just listening to the customers, but not coming up with original thinking, original intellectual property themselves.
Yeah.
And the really great brands seem to be able to do both. And the communities that you have, the super active comments feeds, like we're going through those as well. We're trying to learn what we can from people's experience. And we can't always adopt every comment, but it's like, it's just helping us create better products.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And especially as you're talking about, the Cinch series, like now that I really think about it, I mean, this has been a pretty ambitious year for Bellroy in terms of really stretching out trying new things. It seems like, you guys had your core offerings for years, and the Bellroy brand was so obvious and so apparent and so well constructed. But then, it seems like this year you guys are like, let's see what we can kind of, let's crank it up a little bit, right? I mean, the Pro Series, which our media manager, Margaret, it's her new favorite everyday carry backpack. I mean, them got some chunky shoulder straps, right? And that's not a very Bellroy thing to do. I saw that. I was like, I can't believe this is a Bellroy bag. And it shows, a willingness for you guys. And I thought that was interesting the way you worded it. I mean, you've built the brand, you've built the equity in terms of the brand equity. So now it gives you that freedom to kind of maybe do things that would have been initially be considered off-brand, because people are willing to give you that sort of trust to, try something new. Like those shoulder straps, I was like, these are chunky, like this doesn't feel like Bellroy, but everything else did feel like Bellroy. So it was cool to see that transition and the way that you guys sort of tackled that.
It is, and that Pro range, we can be a bit more polarizing with it because we have the standard transit work pack, which is more of that balance of many different factors, all trying to find the middle path. And then in the Pro, we're like, well, let's go for it. And what we're seeing in the comments is exactly that polarization. It's way more love or hate. Yeah. And the people that are carrying heavier loads, they are like, oh my gosh, these are transformational. And a lot of those insights came out of our Apex backpack strap, which got a cult following for the comfort level of that. And people are like, what is this magic? Like, how have they managed it? And we actually had a number of insights in how to change heavier load carriage for longer times. And so those Transit Pro straps are building on that. But to do it, it's a little more weight, it's a little more bulk. But if you are carrying heavier loads, my gosh, they are good. And then if you're carrying lighter loads, it's like, it's a bit too much. It's like, cool, we've now got the range. There's a different pack for you if you're much more into the lighter loads.
Let me ask, like, what's, and I'm just taking a little detour here, but I'm curious, like, because I've never been to Melbourne, which is obviously the Bellroy HQ. Are many people using public transportation in Melbourne? Is it a pretty public transit city, or most people have cars in Melbourne?
Yeah, so it's generally, it's a way more mixed commute than many US cities, for instance. So there's definitely car transit, but there's a lot of public transport, there's a lot of cycling, there's a lot of walking, there's even a lot of running now. We have some really great bike paths. We have just a lot of ways that people are getting to the office and getting to their work and back.
It's interesting, like the way people, transit can vary depending on location, right? Your everyday carry, whether you're living in, the suburbs of some small town in the States, or whether you're living in where I live in Hong Kong, it's polar opposites, right? And, I think that can be interesting from a brand's perspective as to where, where you're headquartered and how that might influence, the way that you're designing bags to be worn and to be carried on a daily basis. Like in Hong Kong, I lived there for 6 years, and the biggest bags that you see in Hong Kong, because I'm always looking, is usually like the Arc'teryx. I can never pronounce that brand name right, but or the Mystery Ranch 3-way urban assaults, and those are both bags that have. Well, they're very trendy and kind of cool looking with the center zipper. In Hong Kong, it's all about like looking very nice, but also you got load lifters on these bags, right? So it's because when you're in Hong Kong, you're walking sometimes miles every day because nobody has a car in Hong Kong, right? I mean, it's just pure public transport. So it's just interesting to see how different people carry in different ways. I mean, what are you guys seeing in terms of like the way that people carry in Melbourne? What are some of the brands that you guys see pop up? I mean, you got to see a lot of Bellroy bags coming through, right?
Totally. And that Arc'teryx Arrow 22 is, it's a cult in parts of Asia, in Hong Kong, in parts of Japan, in Singapore. And part of that is just that great outdoor aesthetic sort of merged into urban appropriateness, those sorts of things. But very much we've always seen that those intensely urbanized cities that you often see in Asia, from Tokyo to Singapore to Hong Kong, people are leaving their homes for longer and having more transitions through the day. And so that's why Yoshida and Co, like Porter, they are intensely Japanese because that consumer had more difficult carry needs than someone that throws it in the back of a truck, pulls it out and they're done. And so as the forms of transit and how long you're going out and how many activities you're transitioning in a day do radically change your carry needs. So Melbourne has the full mix. It's kind of fun now. Like if you sort of head into our office in Fitzroy Collingwood, it's like you will see multiple Bellroys on your trip. It's like there really is now a huge acknowledgement of the sorts of products we're making. But it's also, there's a huge thing right now on slouchy basic totes. And the tote will often be from your favourite restaurant or cafe or from something funny. And it's like you change it up the way you do t-shirts and you throw things in with almost no pockets. And so you now need like a couple of pouches or a laptop sleeve or something. But there's part of Melbourne is very, very casual and they really want to signal that. And then you have all the cycling commuters where there's no way you can cycle with a tote without sort of risking your life. And so they're much more in performance backpack mode, and it's much more suspensions that are sort of hugging the rib cage and dealing with load stability and ventilation and heat dispersal and those sorts of things. And then on public transport, you tend to get the mix. So it's one of the things about Melbourne, it's a very multicultural city with many broad influences, and so it means you sort of get a little bit of everything. We're on Asia's doorstep, we have strong Asian immigration and influence, but then we also have association with American brands and that side, so it's kind of a hodgepodge. It's everything.
Very interesting. Well, I kind of want to take this opportunity then to, transition into something that we were really excited to talk about, which is, because we're talking about things that are polarizing on backpacks, in this carry community, right? And one thing that's a really interesting topic of discussion is warranties, right? And we're gonna nerd out here, but it's also like just a fascinating conversation in the context of the carry community, but also just like business in general or the larger backpacks, ecosystem. That's the word that I was looking for. Ecosystem as a whole. And I just kind of wanted to, jump into that as to where I guess what's initiated in this conversation is like the fact that you guys at Bellroy had a 3-year warranty on your bags, and now you guys have increased that to 6 years. So I'm curious, as a reviewer, but also a consumer who buys Bellroy products, why did you guys decide to do that?
Oh, it's a great area. I think for any bag geek or carry geek, if you've spent enough time, you realise there's no one best solution. Everything is a compromise. Everything is trying to balance different factors and understand it. And I think warranty is no different. I don't actually believe there's one best warranty to go after. I think warranties need to be fit for purpose. They need to suit not only what the brand is trying to achieve, but also what the different stakeholders achieve. And those stakeholders are customers. Sorry, I can't believe I'm using stakeholder. The interested parties are customers, they're retailers, but it's also things like the planet and how we can build sustainable practices. So there's a lot of influences that mix that. And I think for us, warranty has always been trying to find the balance that makes sense for where we are in our journey. And so there's many reasons that have led to this. And depending on how you want to take this, I can sort of go back to why was it originally 3 years and what was that?
Yeah,
and then why do we now feel we're ready for 6?
I think that actually sounds good because it's context, because, this is not just, a decision that a company is like, let's just go to, 8 years, or, there's so much that goes into this in terms of the preparation and the teamwork and making sure that customer support is aligned and the marketing and making sure, I could imagine a transition for a company your size to go from 3 years to 6 years was a bit of a process. So let's maybe start at why you started at 3 years and then leading into how this ended up transitioning into 6 years.
Awesome, that sounds fun. So, as I said, there's many factors that create the right sort of decision set. And one of them is, what are you trying to balance for? And one of the things about creating gear that lasts a very long time, that you can confidently stand behind, is that there's less room for innovation. Those two things are challenging. So for instance, if I'm someone that really cares about heirloom products that I'm passing down to the next generation, I can't use innovative materials. I can't go lightweight things. I have to go durable, proven, tested. I'm going to be in the natural space, so I'm going to be in like 12-ounce canvas that you can recondition with waxes. I'm generally going to avoid zips. Totally. Leather that is fit for purpose. So if there's any moisture, you can't really go to veg tan leathers because they don't deal with it as much. It'd have to be a chrome tan. You'd have to then make sure you're impregnating the right waxes and oils. So it's like, if you really want to go for 40 years, you can't be experimenting in recycled synthetics, in innovative hardware. You can't be putting coated zippers on. You can't be doing all these things because there's no way they're proven out for 40 years.
It's absolutely fascinating. Okay, yeah, I want to double click into that, but I'm going to let you keep going first.
Awesome. So there's this sort of provenness versus innovation and more willingness to move and experiments. That's one of the balances. Another balance in warranty that's really important is it's something like sustainability, like net good for the planet versus stoke for the customer and delight. And sometimes these things are actually at odds. So for instance, if there's a very small flaw on a product that does not change how it's used, and a brand can warranty that at any point in its life, often what you'll find is that creates the incentive to swap the product for new. And for many brands doing that, it means that product goes to landfill. So for instance, in wheeled luggage, it is horrific if you understand how most brands deal with their warranty, and that is, most brands, it goes straight to landfill. So just imagine this massive wheeled spinner, the whole deal. Yeah. One little thing goes wrong. It's like stoked you can delight a customer and give them a brand new one. Now what happens with the old? And it's like that whole thing for many brands goes to landfill. So, or incinerated. So there's these balances you're constantly trying to do. And often in these conversations, you really want to do the best thing you can for your customer. But as you promise more and more, there's consequences to those promises that are just worth holding, right? So we start in wallets. 2010 launched our first wallets. They were radically different to any other wallet on the market. Most people probably don't realize this, but that whole movement to slim wallets, that was scary when we launched that, because at that time, products didn't store lots of cards together to reduce bulk. They didn't have these really sophisticated ways of building the wallet. It took us a year of prototyping to develop the machinery and approaches and constructions to be able to do the very difficult constructions of our wallets. We were innovating in a lot of ways. And a wallet, lives in your pocket. It was getting used a lot back then. It was getting abused, leather was stretching and being asked to pull back again, all these things. And when we looked at it, we felt, okay, 3 years, we can confidently say 3 years. If we try and go longer, we'd have to start making thicker leather. We'd have to start using more proven techniques, and we'd lose that ability to offer people a very different type of functionality, which is much slimmer. The pull tabs to access cards, these sophisticated folds that give you more delight as you interact with them. And so it took us a chunk of time to come to 3 years, but we felt like 3 years is enough for you to have really had time to discover any manufacturing defects or flaws. It's given you time to kind of learn if it's right for you, do all those things. And then we really have forever been watching any returns we get. Is there some way we can design that out? It's why we constantly iterate. Our slim sleeve is now on version 30 probably, for all the tiny little iterations and combinations and things where we're learning, if that corner's too sharp, it folds. If that edge is finished that way, it unstitches. So we've sort of learned a lot there, and 3 years made sense for the level of innovation we wanted and the category of wallets. And then our first bags were in 2017, and we'd always wanted to do bags and the wider carry world. But the wallets had grown so quickly and there had been so much momentum in that we were just sort of kept there for a little bit longer. And then when we came into bags, again, we wanted to innovate. I think we're in the 98% or something recycled polymer inputs for our bags range. And a lot of what we've had to do there was really innovate to learn how can we still have top levels of performance, but with recycled inputs rather than virgin inputs. And a lot of what we had to do there was really experimenting in bags. And so we began in 2017. We actually began with virgin polymers for the very first round because we had, we're with one of the best makers in the world. We went deep with them. We discussed all sorts of construction techniques, everything. But then there's still a little bit of learning when you launch a whole new category like that. What components, how are they lasting? What hardware, how's that lasting? What's the interface between the hardware and the component? Is that causing any issues? And so we felt like 3 years was still a safer thing to bring across to our bags and offer. It left clarity. All our products were 3 years. It kind of gave us a safe way to start. And I think from the start, if buying a product to last 40 years was your goal, then we probably weren't the most perfect brand for you. But we've always tried incredibly hard to feel confident that these products can last a long time. And so we've still been working on it, but we wanted to sort of under-promise, over-deliver rather than the other way around. And so then, as we really innovated, we've done this. We've now got all these established shapes that we have a long history on, a 6-year history, 7 years even. We've now got these fabrics where we've really worked right back to mill to pioneer these new ways to take recycled inputs and purify them and clean them and then generate a very high integrity yarn and weave that into a very dependable thing. We've now worked with the different backings and really watched how they interact. Backings of fabrics, whether it's polyurethanes or, we don't go anywhere near PVCs, but all the versions of it, they're often one of the first spots to degrade, especially in humid or warm environments, especially if they're being asked to go through the belly of a plane where it will drop right down in temperature and then come into the tropics and explode in humidity and temperature, and they're being forced through these rapid cycles. So there's just all this stuff where for us to confidently say 6 years, if we had have done that with our first bags, I don't think we could have done that with hand on heart, like, okay, we now feel really confident here. Yeah. And if we tried to, it would have meant we would have had to compromise on the innovation and the different approaches we wanted to take to bags, and we would have had to much more just do tried and true things. Mm-hmm. So it's this balance we've been navigating, and it's that now we're at this point where we have real confidence. We've been reviewing everything that comes back and understanding why we've been messing with our ingredients and our constructions and doing things. And so now we feel like if warranty is an important thing to you, we can now confidently say 6 years. Of course things will go wrong. Of course it will be there, as somebody might use it in an incredibly demanding environment or something that we couldn't have foreseen. But we can now do that confidently. We couldn't have when we were brand new in bags.
It's a fascinating sort of perspective on all this, because what interests me the most is how you sort of drew the comparison, or I would say the dichotomy between innovation and safety. And, innovation, it requires risk-taking, right? For instance, and going the safer route doesn't, but it's kind of the safe and potentially boring route, which doesn't seem to be very in line with Bellroy's sort of principles of design. You guys definitely are on the more risk-taking side. And it makes me think of, like, were you at ISPO in Munich a couple weeks ago?
I wasn't. We certainly had team there, but
okay. I wasn't able to make it either. I wanted to go. I had to cancel last minute, but I have some friends there, and they're like, "Oh my God, these new materials, these new fabrics, So you go to these. Well, I guess to take it back a notch, we're in an industry that's rapidly developing. Technological advances are happening all the time, whether it's with Woojin, the buckles, or Challenge sailcloth. It's just like we're seeing some incredible innovation. But a lot of the innovation is not tried and tested, right? This new fabric might be absolutely incredible for a year or two, but you don't know if it's going to start peeling after. They've done their testing, but there hasn't been long-term, like 5-year extreme environment testing done on a lot of this stuff. So you then have a choice as a brand. You can say, we are fascinated by this fabric. It fits the Bellroy spirit, or the whatever, the soul of the brand. But we don't. Do you take that risk then, right? So I think that's really interesting, as to where it's like, okay, let's take a brand like Evergoods, for example, and we're not trying to, I just think it's, interesting to talk about the different players in this community, as to where, some people might find Evergoods to be a little more on the, let's say, standard side. I mean, they would be guilty of saying that themselves. They call their interior lining standard gray. So like they like standard, right? Because standard is effective and it works. They call themselves Evergoods. So they like this sort of like this feeling of like, old school, durable, dependable, and they use ballistic nylons and plastic hardware that is going to stand the test of time. And it's been done so many times, but that's what their audience and their customer base likes, right? And that's a very different approach to business and to building products than what you guys are doing at Bellroy, where it's like, no, we want this Bida ripstop nylon that we found. It's gorgeous. We want to put this on bags. This is Bellroy, and I assume you don't always know what that's going to look like in the long term, but you understand that it's something that you guys want to innovate with and experiment with. Have I sort of wrapped my head around it?
Yeah, I think that's really good. And Evergoods is a great example, because it's like the world is better with Evergoods in it. Like, they're a great brand. They care a lot. I think they are actually quite innovative in their patterning and their suspension systems and a series of things. But then you're right, they've got a much more restricted material palette that they can work with to try and get the durability and the dependability there. And so if you don't like their kind of fabric library, it's pretty limited, and there's not much for you. But my gosh, that's still a great way to go about building a brand, and they've made their space. And what's interesting too, though, that I really want to get in there is, what is the fine print in the warranty? So a brand has an intention, they communicate, they do that, but the other side to warranty that we're just very aware of, and so now this is moving off Evergoods to others, but it's like, there are literally billion-dollar brands selling products under a lifetime warranty. You read the fine print, and it's lifetime means 5 years. So there's sometimes things like that. The other massive one is, we warranty material defects and workmanship, but we do not warranty material breakdown. So if we look at some of our biggest issues with how do we confidently say this will last, it is material breakdown. PU coatings in a high humidity, high temp environment, man, they've got a life. Yeah. Coated zippers in a high humidity, high use, high temp environment, they've got a life. It's like, and so you can see then Evergoods have had to find other ways around coated zippers and other ways to other spots that maybe then don't work quite as much in a torrential tropical downpour, but it lets them go durability more. But as we think about these warranties, it's also how much fine print do you want a customer to have to read? So for instance, there are major brands that do not cover material breakdown. So, okay, coated zippers start peeling. That's material breakdown. PU, I don't know if you've ever had a PU pack where the PU goes off, it starts to stink, it starts to flake, it's like, it's really gross. It's like, all those would not be covered under warranty. So it's like, if someone's bought a lifetime warranty expecting this, they've saved up a lot of money and they're expecting it to last 10, 15 years, and then material breakdown, like, that's delaying the hard conversation rather than having it up front. It's making them feel like they're covered, but then are they really? And then what happens later? And so again, like our warranty, we are just on a journey. We have so far to go. Like, if I could actually call out some brands that I think have incredible warranties, it's brands like Patagonia and GORUCK. And one of the reasons they're great is Patagonia has one of the largest repair facilities in North America. It's like this enormous facility in Reno, I think. And it's like, what they're doing is, if something goes wrong, it doesn't go to the landfill, it goes and gets repaired. And Patagonia ask the customer to work out what is a reasonable lifetime for that product. And then they are incredible. I've repaired Patagonia stuff, and I walk in and they're just like, yeah, we'll fix it back in 2 weeks. And it's like, whoa, new product, upgraded it's like, I'm stoked with that. So
for sure,
I think there are people we're holding up as like, my gosh, if we could get to that, that feels incredible. And then the other spectrum that I'm just so wary of is lifetime warranty. From a brand new brand that has been around for 3 months, that probably won't be around in 3 years, that is using sailcloths that might well delaminate, that is using all these, coated zippers, it's like, hold on, is that, what do you mean by lifetime? Or I think something that is better but still doesn't quite feel right to us is lifetime warranty but with no repair facilities. And it's like, that's better for the customer, but it's dangerous for the planet, because I think a lot of people will say, if I can have a brand new one, I may as well. And even though this is fine and it works great, I'm not going to try and repair it. I'm not going to try and fix that fraying stitch or do something. I'll just send it back and get a brand new one. And so you watch the behaviour is just incentivized to not kind of be good for the world on large. It's sort of good for this one interaction. And so it's this really difficult spot. And honestly, I don't think there's one best warranty. I think Patagonia, I think, GORUCK scars repair, I think those sorts of things are great. But, you pay for a GORUCK because that repair centre, that scars thing, that has the cost in that model to then support that. And I love that there's brands like that in the world, right? Yeah. And it's a different value equation.
100%. Yeah, GORUCK is particularly interesting because, the bags used to primarily be made in America. Now a lot of it's been made, made in Vietnam, which is totally fine. I mean, Vietnam's the backpack making epicenter of the world for a reason. So, nothing wrong with outsourcing and going overseas in terms of manufacturing, but the prices still sort of stay the same. And we get a lot of questions on the channel why, and I'm like, you got to take into consideration that warranty. That's caked into the price, and it means that you're covered. It's the scars warranty. If you guys don't know about it, it's one of the best warranties, not only in the bag world, I just say in consumer world in general, but that's the reason why you're paying $400 US for a very simple, well-constructed, incredible backpack. Let's be honest.
Spot on, and this is back to the innovation thing, right? You're not going to get a breathable air mesh because that's not going to hold up to it. So you've got body fabric on the back panel. Your straps are going to be less cushioning and supple and those things. There is a series of compromises required for this value equation. And it's I think that's just that fitness for purpose. It's the world wins when there are different takes that let customers who value different things in different orders put different things at the top. And so if the customer is most valuing this durable, rugged, repair, all that, buy it once, quality only hurts once, all those things,
GORUCK's your brand.
It'll have less innovation, it'll have less of those things, but it is a clear value proposition that is upfront with the customer, and it's that's awesome. That's so good.
Exactly. We're so blessed. We're so lucky as consumers right now, especially because there's so many options for different bag brands. Where it was 10 years ago versus now, and there's new brands popping up all the time as to whatever I think that you're into or what you want or what you value or your style and aesthetic. There's a bag brand out there that's probably serving your niche right now and probably pretty well. So it's a good time to be a consumer. And I like what you said in terms of drawing comparisons to other brands. So we talked about GORUCK as to where, because what I think is interesting is with warranties and repairs and all this is sometimes the consumers aren't aware of the complexity of something like this. So for instance, I'll get comments on the channel where they're hey, I bought this bag from insert small new brand, right? And then it's like, but they said they can't repair this. Well, Osprey does. Why can't they? You know, and I'm like, well, therein lies the challenge. I mean, the scale that a brand like an Osprey, or in your example, Patagonia, that they have to be able to offer an international, robust, lifetime warranty and repair policy. I mean, it's just inaccessible for most brands. I mean, and like you said, it's interesting because, to us in the carry community, Bellroy's huge, but, compared to Patagonia, I mean, like, you guys, a lot of room to catch up to them, right?
A lot of room.
Yeah, so there's, there's still this sort of disparity in between, like, size of brands as to where, like, like, I don't know, if I was like, hey, how far away is Bellroy from having an international repair center? Like, I mean, is that at a point of scale that you guys are nearing, or is that still in the distant horizon?
It is absolutely being thought about, and I think one of the big issues with larger carry is just the cost of freight international is huge. And so Patagonia is not only the Reno repair facility, it's also a huge amount of retail stores around the world that create a localized collection mood, and then working with repairers in each region. And so it's not enough just to have one center, it's that you start needing actually a solution that allows each of the regions to get product back efficiently, repair it and get it back to consumer without spending way more than the original product cost once it was being done at large scale supply chains. And so it's a difficult thing. We want to. That is on our roadmap, and it's a very difficult thing. And there's often a few other pieces that have to come together to really be able to do that.
I think that'd be awesome if there was a Bellroy like repair center. It'd be a really cool thing to see in the carry community, because, like we said, the Patagonias, the Ospreys, they've hit that point of scale where they can offer it, and even GORUCK. But GORUCK's a little bit different, just because that premium that you're paying, as to where you're like, I don't understand where the value proposition is here for this bag. It's an amazing bag, right? But then he's like, oh, that SCAR's guarantee, that totally makes sense, caked in.
And
now it all
it's
makes
still
sense.
a lot harder for folks who don't live in North America.
That's a great point. I mean, I had a podcast with Bo from the Boas Mono review channel, and he lives in Germany, and me being American centric, I hadn't considered that, as to where, okay, like, it just shows the complexities with warranties, right? It's like, okay, cool, we talked about the wording and the lifetime and what's covered and what's not, and but then also, internationally, if you buy a GORUCK, and we're not picking on you, GORUCK, I love you guys to death, but let's say if you buy a GORUCK in South Africa and you want to get that repaired, it's a much more complicated and I believe expensive process to be able to do that, right? That's why, Patagonias and Ospreys have put so much money into offering these services locally, because their competition just can't compete with it. So, it'd be really cool to see Bellroy offering that at some point. But you were also talking about, the just overall complexities and the wording in general, but then it sort of like goes into the, the customer support side of things. Because you can have the warranty, and then you have somebody reach out in regards to, hey, I have this problem. What's sort of the Bellroy philosophy when it comes to actually, on a one-to-one basis when you're getting these tickets coming in?
Yeah, so I think, like, candidly, we haven't been good enough at this, and we've actually got an awesome team putting a huge amount of effort into this right now, and it is. The tension you battle there is there are really well-meaning folk and there are disingenuous folk. And it's a really difficult tension. As you grow, still nowhere near the big scales, but there's more people that just are willing to try and game your systems. And we do have a lot of people that I would flat out call scammers, but then we also have a lot of people pushing the edges, and then we have some people really genuine and doing the right thing, some people just trying to understand the expectation. And I think we've really been going through and trying to understand the experience of different customers, and we don't think we've had that mix quite right. And so we're doing a lot of work right now working with our entire CX flow, that customer experience flow, to understand what expectations do you need to get right up front, then how do you follow up when something's not clear, then how do you differentiate between those that are just great customers that you really need to be pleasing versus those that are trying to manipulate things and take more than they should, right through to the extreme scammers. And it's hard. There's now bigger brands get full-on counterfeit product and it comes out and it's kind of hard to tell the difference until you're a year into the product and then it all starts to fall apart. There's all these other challenges, and I think we've been cognizant of those challenges, and maybe they've meant we haven't made it as fluid and seamless for the more genuine folk that it could be. So we're working really hard on that. We're really trying to understand how other brands manage this. We're trying to really go in, giving customers the benefit of the doubt. We're trying to really look at these processes at the moment, and that is absolutely part of what we know we have to be much better at quickly. And so I think I'd say lots of people have had excellent experiences, some haven't, and we're trying to... there will always be people that don't get the right experience as to what their expectations were, but we're trying to make that less and less and less and less, and we're really actively working on that right now. We should be better.
I think that candidness is, it's appreciated as to where, well, there's a lot of different aspects to this as to where, for full transparency, I read every comment, right? And I'm always active on Reddit and stuff, and I'm aware of certain brands that have reputations in good ways and in bad ways, but I always have to take that relative to the scale of the brand, right? So if there's small little brand and I've read, 2 bad comments on them, that's fine, versus a larger brand versus 100. I mean, it's not comparable in terms of how many bags large brand and small brand are selling, right? So I've always thought that the ratio of good to bad things that I've read about Bellroy has been fair. And it doesn't mean that there's always not room for improvement, because I don't care what business you run, there's always room for improvement in every process and every department that you run, especially in customer support. And customer support, like you said, is particularly challenging because, Andy, I don't know if you know, but I started my own backpack company, and we're dealing with customer support tickets now, and I had some dude this week, dude. I couldn't sleep. I was just because I'm a small team and I'm handling it myself, and I'm like, he's clearly trying to scam the living crap out of me, and the policy was very clearly stated, but and it's like this it's hard because some people will try and take advantage of you, and some people are not trying to take advantage of you. They're just genuinely good people, and then the gray zone is that hardest part, and that it's an art. It's not a science. So I think it's great to hear that Bellroy, even though I think that some of the claims of your guys not having the best customer support is a little overblown given the scale that you guys have, I think it's just great that you guys are acknowledging, hey, it's always something that can be improved. And
thank you for noticing that. I think it's such a valid point. Generally the disgruntled folk are louder than the pleased folk. And you're exactly right. There is a different scale. The number of Bellroys in the world is very different to, a brand that might have only been earlier in their journey. And so I think that can be a hard thing for people to navigate and understand. But we really want to find ways to make sure that genuine folk get a good result. And the friction is always that there's unfortunately, even once you're more international, there's more challenges as to cross-border things and what's happening, and certain regions have more disingenuous folk acting, and some regions, it's just the regionalness of it helps clear some of that out. Mm-hmm. Brands that are operating across more platforms can have more challenges. It's difficult. It's really difficult.
It really is, but I think the most important thing is always the commitment to doing the best that you can, improving where you can, and I think I'm really excited to see where you guys go moving forward. So just to close the loop on the warranty thing, then. So we were at 3 years, we're at 6 years now. With 6 years, not an arbitrary number. Just actually, I want to ask you, arbitrary number, or why'd you guys end up particularly there?
It was originally it was going to be 5 years. And then we're like, well, why can't it be longer? And we have gone through every return, we've summarized every issue, we've gone through all our components, our materials. Like, you're right, this was not arbitrary. This was really going through it and really trying to understand, like, we can't, like, if you are an incredibly demanding user, like one of my best mates, he can annihilate anyone's product in a year. It's just a skill he has. He just lives so rough and raw. He's a lumberjack, and he is an extreme sports person, and he four drives and he hunts and he bow and arrow, and he's so horrendous on gear. So he's a great advanced tester, but no one's gear will survive more than a year with him. But it's like, we can't protect against that. But when we've looked at, like, we've gone deep, we've done art and science on this one. We've gone deep into all the returns. We've gone all the components, and we are now being held back by some components is the main reason. And we just can't set the expectation up that some of these components will last longer than 6 years. In regular use. So again, extremely demanding use, they won't even last that, but that's very rare. Not that many people are that incredible on gear. And we see many competitors selling those same components. You know, we use the best component makers in the world, we do all those, and they're guaranteeing them for longer, and we are just like, okay, that's your choice. It feels like that might be setting up for a disappointment down the track.
Yeah, I suppose putting your neck on the line, so.
Yeah. And so, we got to it there through both art and science, a lot of feel, a lot of like, but could we do longer? Could we do longer? And then at what point? And, you know, the fact that we've had bags in the market since 2017, but then in 2018, 19, we made a number of innovations that changed the ingredients of those. And so we're now like about 6 years in to those innovations, and we've got to see how they're playing out. And so it's like, okay, we can confidently do this now. And that's different. Like, just to say it, we had a different experience with phone cases. In phone cases, it's generally a 3-month warranty, if that. Of course, certain regions have statutory requirements above that. But we're 3 years in a phone case, and that's so hard to achieve. And it's like, phone cases are annihilated. People probably don't realise it, but they're in their hand like 20 times a day. They're getting dropped, they're getting all sorts. And it's like, it's a real stretch for us to get to 3 years on a phone case, even though we have done so much work to try and make it last that long. That was a bit of a stretch for us, because I just didn't want to go below day 1000. Below that 3-year mark. It's like, we as a company wanted to say, look, there's a baseline where if we can't warranty a product to 3 years, we probably shouldn't make that product. And to do that, that has been a real stretch, but then we're not as willing to do that in the bags. They're so much more expensive to replace. They're so much more expensive to ship. It's a bigger investment for people, so we needed more confidence in that again.
I think the increase from 3 years to 6 years is probably going to be very well received from your community, and I know it has been well received from ours as well. Obviously, everybody has different, standards and preferences, and some people want that sort of GORUCK Evergoods experience, and that's the beauty of this niche that we're in, is there's an option for that, and there's a market for that. And if you want the Bellroys and the Airs and the modern day Fairs and so on and so on. So I think that we're at a very fortunate time right now as consumers in the carry community, as we have all these options. And I just think seeing Bellroy go from 3 years to 6 years is awesome. And who knows, maybe in 6 years we'll be at 10 years, right? And just keep it going, baby.
Let's see. And I think our number one environmental goal is product used and loved for as long as possible. And that really is a heartbeat that we keep coming back to and we keep striving for. And you're right, our goal is to keep moving towards these sort of repair facilities and these longer warranties and these things, but only when we feel confident that we've got the right mix for it and that we can do that. Again, there's so many things we're not doing right yet, but we really want to improve and we really want to keep trying to progress it.
Speaking of improving and progressing, we're gonna wind down this conversation, but I'm curious, what does Bellroy got in the pipeline for 2025? We got anything new you can tease for us?
We do. Yeah. We're working hard on some really exciting projects. So
you seem excited. There's a genuine sense of stokedness on your face right now.
One of the incredible things about the Bellroy team, even though it's been growing and growing, it's like we just have these people we love so much who've been with us for so long, and they are just clicking and working together so well, and we've really innovated on our product development process, and we're really learning to knit as teams better and work out how to complement different skills in a team and really work together. And so there's some big things coming, and it's we're really hoping there'll be things that excite and stretch us to new spaces. I don't know, I can't say too much, but we're on that carry journey, and we're trying to create really awesome carry quivers that work together well and go from work to play, near to far, are just more flexible. They're not a one-trick pony. They kind of do more stuff, and they move through more worlds and environments with you. And so there's more coming in that. So.
I can't wait. Yes, I've heard some rumors, heard some rumblings. We'll see what happens when the products get released. But I think 2025 is going to be a very exciting year for you guys. Andy, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to say, plug before we?
No, just thank you again for the work you do. I think warranty is one of those things where if I ever just hear people saying, "Oh, but they have a lifetime," I just want to go, hold on, what does that mean? Like, what is covered? What's happening? What are the consequences? So I think these sorts of kind of discussions are good for just saying, hey, there's a bit to this, navigate and work out how important it is for you. We strive to make our products last so much longer. We still have so many customers now onto year 14 on their first Bellroy product, and it's still going strong. So it's like, we are always striving to exceed that. It's just like, what form is that warranty and what expectations is it setting, and when will the difficult conversations come? That's just worth thinking about as you're engaging with different warranties. And thank you so much for creating a platform where we can go deep on one theme, and hopefully some people find it interesting.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be our most viral podcast to date, but that's fine. It's long form. We went deep, and I think more importantly, it's interesting to have long form conversations about this because you see a little a text here or a tweet there or a little Reddit post, and everyone's just trying to dunk on each other, and there's no context. This is a real conversation about a complex issue that inquires about customers' perspectives, business perspectives, the scale of the business, the innovation of the business. It's a very multifaceted conversation. So I learned a lot in this process, and I really appreciate just kind of like opening up and the transparency and the candidness, and I think I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Andy.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Aaron. Cheers.
All right. Well, anybody who's watching still, thank you so much for your time. Leave a comment below if you got any questions for myself or for Andy. And I'm Aaron. This is Nomads Nation, and we'll catch you guys next time.